What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? A very good evening to you and welcome to Weekend Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Now, before we get into our stories in detail, let's take a quick look at your headlines.
Businessman killed in Attanagalla shooting. 4 others, including a pregnant woman, injured. Rough seas keep seafaring communities on dry land. Parliament yet to ratify extradition treaty with the United Arab Emirates, an obstacle to securing the extradition of Udayanga Veeratunga. Release of funding for Central Expressway delayed.
President Maithripala will return to Sri Lanka tomorrow following the conclusion of the 25th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which was held in London over 4 days.
The theme of CHOGM 2018 was a common future. In addition to attending the main summit, President Sirisena also addressed the Commonwealth Business Forum and was the keynote speaker at the Summit on Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. President Sirisena also attended the celebration of the 92nd birthday of Queen Elizabeth II. Parallel to his visit to the UK, President Sirisena was also the chief guest at the New Year celebrations organised by the Sri Saddhahatis Buddhist Centre in Kingsbury, London. The New Year celebrations were held at the Harrow Leisure Centre and saw the participation of over 4,000 Sri Lankan nationals domiciled in the UK.
It is a great privilege to be here to participate in the celebrations following the dawn of Sinhala and Tamil New Year in 2018 and participate at the CHOGM Summit in London to further witness our great traditions and cultural aspects of these events to the greatest measures with you all.
President
Maithripala is to leave London for Sri Lanka this evening London time. The President will return to the country tomorrow afternoon after successfully concluding his visit to London, where he attended the 25th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. I'm Malshani Attanayake reporting for Newsfirst from London.
The Department of Meteorology is warning of storm surges as high as 3 meters along the coast from Puttalam to Batticaloa via Colombo and Galle. Director General of the Met Department, Sarath Premlal, however, noted that these conditions would prevail until the 24th of this month and that the public must not panic.
Our correspondents reported rough seas from Galle and Hikkadua in the southern province, including minor storm surges. The storm surge had also damaged the breakwater at the Dodanduwa fisheries harbour. Fishermen in these areas remained on shore today due to the rough conditions. Minor storm surges were also reported along Beach Road and in Habaradua in Galle last night. Storm surges were also reported in Kamburugama and Tal Aramba in Mathura last night. Fishermen in Valigama and Midigama also refrained from setting out to sea yesterday due to the strong storm surges. They say the waves came inland as far as the main road in Midigama last night. Several temporary tourist restaurants along the Madilla coast in Tangol were washed away by storm surges. The driver of a tractor travelling along the breakwater of the Kaduella Fisheries Harbour sustained minor injuries when a particularly strong wave knocked the tractor into the harbour. Swells and storm surges were also reported at several locations along the coast of the Puttalam district. Our correspondent reported significant erosion of the coast of Muthupanthia Islet. There will be a strong storm surge along the Puttalam to Galle coastal lines. It is not a tsunami. It is only a storm surge. However, it is good if the public refrain from setting out to sea.
Reports indicate that the state is yet to receive loan funding for the construction of the Central Expressway. Construction of the expressway is being undertaken in 3 phases. Plans had been made to swiftly complete construction of the Central Expressway from Kadawatha to Galegedara. Construction of Phase 1 of the Expressway, a 37-kilometer stretch from Kadawatha to Mirigama, is being undertaken by a Chinese company with funding from China's Exim Bank. Incidentally, the bank is yet to release the loan amount of 158.4 billion rupees, and the construction company has commenced work on the project at their own cost. Phase 2 of the Central Expressway runs from Mirigama to Pothuhera. Work on this section of the expressway has been undertaken by 4 consortiums of 16 local companies with financing from 4 local banks. The total loan amount for Phase 2 of the project is 137.098 billion rupees, and the 4 local banks have already released close to 40 billion rupees of this amount. While cabinet approval was granted to award the contract for Phase 3 of the expressway from Pothuhera to Galegedara to Japan's Taisei Corporation, the agreement is yet to be signed. According to the Road Development Authority, there have been delays in securing the release of the financing for Phase 3 of the expressway, amounting to 153 billion rupees from Japan's Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank. In addition to the higher interest rate, the loan facility includes a 10.07% insurance premium, 1.1% arrangement fee, and an additional commission of 0.25%. A senior official at the RDA noted that the Attorney General's Department is yet to grant approval for this loan facility. The awarding of the contract for Phase 3 of the project to the Taisei Corporation was also a matter of great interest in the recent past. Meanwhile, people who will lose their lands due to construction on Phase 3 of the Central Expressway claim that a fair compensation mechanism is yet to be implemented.
This project has progressed extremely slowly from 2014 to 2018. 3 LARC committees were convened, and at the first sitting, the government pledged certain allowances. We can present documentary evidence of this. However, by the time the second and third LARC committees convened, the government had slashed about 80% of the compensation due to the people. We have been informed that the Japanese government has not signed the agreement and that the loan has not been approved for this project as yet. Accordingly, payments have been made using money disbursed by the government in stages. We have held talks on this problem with everyone, including the minister, but no one has been able to give us a solution.
We are despondent. We cannot carry out any construction work on our homes. Come May, it will be 4 years since they came here and surveyed the land. We haven't even cultivated anything because of this.
We are yet to receive any kind of compensation. They have simply surveyed the land and gone away. If we do not receive fair compensation, how can we rebuild our lives?
It has been 4 years since the survey was carried out. They said they would pay about 30,000 rupees per perch, but that is not fair compensation. Initially, they promised us 350,000. Then it reduced to 150,000. At present, they are offering compensation amounting to between 30 to 50,000. We cannot be satisfied with this amount.
Amid the myriad of problems that have arisen, construction of the Central Expressway may not be completed within the given time frame. Authorities have been unsuccessful as yet in securing the extradition of Sri Lanka's fugitive former ambassador to Russia, Udayanga Veeratunga, who is currently in Dubai.
A warrant was issued for the arrest of Udayanga Veeratunga, who is absconding from court in connection to the controversial MIG deal, and an Interpol red notice has also been issued for his arrest. Veeratunga was placed under arrest in the UAE on the 24th of March in line with the international warrant and continues to be detained there. A senior public official noted that the necessary documents for the extradition of Udayanga Veeratunga have been sent to authorities in the UAE. The official, however, noted that as they were notified to submit a request for Veeratunga's extradition in line with extradition laws, the relevant documents are being drafted at present. However, today's newspapers reported that as the extradition treaty with the UAE has not been ratified by Sri Lanka, it would be an obstacle to securing the extradition of Udayanga Veeratunga. The Sunday Times reported that while the extradition treaty was signed on the 29th of April 2002, it is yet to be ratified by Sri Lanka's parliament.
When it comes to treaties, it is very important that we get them sanctioned by Parliament, passed by Parliament as any other law would. Otherwise, it's a waste of time travelling around the world trying to get them implemented, like getting people extradited, and then come to Sri Lanka and find that the Parliament has never looked at those documents. Anything that is law has to be passed by Parliament because it's the people's representatives who do it. So I would strongly suggest that without wasting time in getting people extradited, laws passed by Parliament, and State Council must not waste time going abroad, travelling at state expense, wasting money.
Responding to a query from News First, Sri Lanka's ambassador to the UAE, Sulaiman Jeffrey Mohideen, noted that the UAE government has not provided relevant information on the subject to the embassy. He added that steps would be taken on this matter in line with the instructions of the government.
In more local news, police believe that a business dispute was the motivation behind a shooting which took place at a musical concert in Attanagalla, Nitambua last night. A businessman from Malvana was shot dead while 4 others, including a pregnant woman, were injured.
A musical concert was held near the premises of the Attanagalla Rajamaha Viharaya last night, following day-long New Year celebrations which had been organised by the Youth Front of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. At about 10:30 p.m, a group of men riding 2 motorcycles had opened fire on an SUV which was parked outside the temple premises. The shooters had fled on their motorcycle, while the man in the SUV and 4 concert-goers who sustained gunshot wounds were admitted to the Vatupitavala base hospital. The man in the SUV was pronounced dead on arrival and was later identified as Ruwan Devapriya, a businessman and a father of 2 from Malvana. Devapriya, who is involved in the sand and soil mining business, was incidentally one of the sponsors of last night's concert. Among the 4 concert-goers injured in the crossfire is a 24-year-old pregnant woman. The pregnant woman and another man who were injured in the shooting were transferred to the National Hospital in Colombo this morning. Hospital sources said the man is in critical condition. The acting magistrate of Attanagalla carried out preliminary inquiries this morning and ordered that the body of the deceased victim be transported to the Ragama Teaching Hospital for post-mortem examination.
At present, the main suspect of this incident is on bail after committing a murder. An individual was shot dead near the Veyangoda Bridge on the 24th of December 2016. 4 suspects were arrested and the firearm used was taken under police custody. Out of the 4 suspects, one of them is Kalukkuwe Kankanamlage Chamara Injadit Jayasundara, who was released on bail by the Gampaha High Court on the 5th of July 2017. There was a bail condition, which is for him to be present at the Veyangoda police on a weekly basis on Sundays. However, during the last 2 Sundays, he has violated this condition. The victim, who was killed yesterday, had carried out business operations with Chamara Indrajit. There had been a conflict among these 2 over finances, and hence the victim, who was killed yesterday, had removed Chamara from their business operations. Investigations have revealed that this had led to this shooting.
The United States of America has issued the country reports on human rights practices for the year 2017. The annual U.S. Human Rights Report noted that the Sri Lankan government has made limited progress toward establishing additional transitional justice mechanisms. The country reports were made public by Acting U.S. Secretary of State John J. Sullivan, and the report on Sri Lanka contains 25 pages. It noted that there were some reports that the government or its agents committed arbitrary or unlawful killings. According to the report, interviews by human rights organizations found that torture remained endemic throughout the country, including for those charged with offences under the PTA. The report says excessive use of force against civilians by police and security officials also remained a problem. The report adds prison conditions were poor due to old infrastructure, overcrowding and a shortage of sanitary facilities. Today marks the 81st birth anniversary of former minister, the late Ravi Karunanayake.
A group including MP Prasanna Ranatunga paid floral tribute today to a statue of the late Ravi Karunanayake in Udugampala. I will not speak about what MP Arjuna Ranatunga said today. The people of this district know who it was that stood by Ravi Karunanayake in his political journey from the time I was small. He has always spoken about the Bandaranayakas, and it is true that we treated the Bandaranayakas well. This is true in the past and it is true now. However, he has forgotten that when Ravi Karunanayake went there to receive the governorship, he came away empty-handed. While there may have been differences in our political policies, we will never allow these differences to harm our relationship as brothers. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa also participated in a subsequent meeting held at MP Prasanna Ranatunga's office.
When we are in the opposition, sometimes we latch onto something and chase after it, and we forget the myriad of other problems that persist. Even the government feeds us some issue or the other. In the recent past, we spoke about Aloysius's case. Now all we are talking about is the constitution. We have been divided on this. Each and everyone is expressing their own views. It has become a competition. Who is directing us towards these paths? There is time. We don't have to worry about time. When it comes, we will consider it. We haven't seen a draft or anything else. And when it comes, we will talk about it. We must not worry about it now.
Meanwhile, Minister Arjuna Ranatunga also paid floral tribute to the statue of the late Ravi Ranatunga this morning.
I think that for as long as Mahinda Rajapaksa was there, he did not give him any expectations or look into him either. He brought him into parliament, and when my father passed away, he allowed him to pass away as an MP. You shouldn't be looking into people who make major sacrifices for the party after they pass away. That is normal, isn't it? They have always sold the memory of other people in their politics. That is what they did in the past. That is what they are doing now, and they will continue to do it in the future. On the other hand, it is good that my father is no more today. Otherwise, he would have had to pass away after witnessing all this.
The joint opposition convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
Ravi Karunanayake hitapu mudal amatyavareya.
The government is having certain agreements with the IMF officials as the fourth review of the 3-year contract reached by Ravi Karunanayake with the IMF when he was the finance minister. We have to seriously acknowledge that this is why the Inland Revenue Act was created, the Foreign Exchange Act was created, and the VAT was adjusted. What will be done in the future is also an extension of this and nothing else. Whether we like it or not, it is inevitable that a pricing formula for petroleum will be introduced. This agreement was signed even during the time of Mahinda Rajapaksa. There was a balance of payments issue back then. They violated that agreement, and when the IMF left, the country was ruled based on the Mahinda Chintanaya.
ඊට පස්සේ ගිවිසුමෙන් පිට පැනලා තමයි ගිවිසුම ඉවර කරලා ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල අකුලගෙන ගියාට පස්සේ තමයි මහින්ද චින්තන ඉදිරි දැක්ම අනුව.
The proposed 20th amendment to the constitution was discussed at a media briefing convened by the National Freedom Front today.
The JVP is bringing forward this slogan to abolish the executive presidency at a time when the government is embroiled in chaos. This tactic here is to solve the issues within the government and to create chaos within the opposition. That is the tactic employed by the JVP. When the 13th Amendment is functioning, through the abolishing of the executive, they are trying to enact the 13th Amendment completely. That is their next objective.
A media briefing of the Yuthukuma Forum took place in Colombo today.
We can clearly see that the outcome of the no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister has resulted in not only the no-confidence against him, but the overall government itself. I don't think there should be any doubt over the fact that the Prime Minister should resign from his position as he is responsible for the violation of the Monetary Law Act and giving the responsibility of the central bank to a foreign national. I believe that all political parties have showed that the government which came to free the country of corruption had carried out activities that do not support the public mandate.
Those were the views expressed by the convener of the Yuthukama Forum, Govindu Kumara Thunga. Meanwhile, the US Congress approved foreign appropriation bill has allocated US $35 million for Sri Lanka for 2018 for economic development and democracy programs, particularly in areas recovering from ethnic and religious conflict. According to the bill, The document contains appropriations for the U.S. Department of State, Foreign Operations and related programs for the fiscal year ending September 30th of 2018 and for other purposes. The bill also details extensive conditions for Sri Lanka to be eligible for the funding. The bill says funds appropriated by this act for assistance for the central government of Sri Lanka may be made available only if the Secretary of State certifies and reports to the committees on appropriations that the government of Sri Lanka is taking steps to address the underlying causes of conflict in Sri Lanka, increase accountability and transparency in governance, and fulfill commitments with respect to transitional justice and the restoration of civil and human rights. The act has allocated $400,000 under the heading Foreign Military Financing Program for programs to support humanitarian and disaster response efforts to redeploy out of former conflict zones and to restructure and reduce the size of the Sri Lankan armed forces. It has allocated more funds under the heading Peacekeeping Operations for training and equipment related to international peacekeeping operations. The final rites were observed today for another victim of the accident at a rubber factory in Bellapitiya, Horana.
On the 19th of this month, 2 employees of the factory and 3 area residents were killed after being exposed to ammonia gas. 34-year-old Dilip Kasun was an area resident who lent his hand to rescue an employee at the factory at the time of the incident. The final rites of Dilip Kasun were observed today at the public cemetery in Horana. Another individual who was exposed to the ammonia gas is continuing to receive treatment at the Horana Base Hospital. The superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Tamara Kalubovila, said the other patients who were receiving treatment for ammonia gas exposure had been discharged.
Up next is Action TV.
The farmers of Madawalagama in eastern Nuwaragam Palata, who were only able to cultivate 180 of the total 1,500 acres of paddy land in the area due to the drought, are currently reaping the mega harvest. In spite of the prolonged drought they have experienced, following certain actions carried out by the North Central Province Irrigation Department at the Madawalagama Wawa under police protection, the farmers now find themselves praying that they do not receive heavy rainfall. This is because of the man-made disaster that could transpire here in the event of the reservoir reaching spill level. The Madawalagama Wawa receives water from the Nachaduwa Wawa. On the 11th of this month, Action TV exposed the extent of the farce that had been carried out here at a cost of 1.2 million rupees. The 1.2 million rupees in funding should have been utilized to remove the silt that had accumulated in the reservoir. Instead, the money was used to raise the spill gate above the accepted standards and build another spillway, which when opened will result in the complete submerging of all 1,500 acres of arable paddy land in the area. By the time Action TV carried the first expose on this catastrophic construction project, the farmers had already lodged a complaint with the police. Amid the protest of the farmers, the contractor who was to affix the 3 spill gates for the reservoir departed, leaving one of the spill gates behind. While the police continued to kill time, the contractor had come to the site once again on Thursday to complete his work, prompting the farmers to summon the police to the location. They left. We did not allow them to fix the spill gates. We went to the police and met Sub-Inspector Vijayatunga there. We told him we wanted to make an entry regarding this incident. We had previously made an entry with the police, but they did not investigate it. He told us that we need not file another entry since the police were there to stop it. When we asked him whether an entry could be made against us for preventing state work, he said that we need not worry because the police was there to stop it and that we could go back home. The very next day, on Friday, the police arrived in Madawalagama even before the contractor. Our farmers were late to come here. There were about 7 or 8 of us and they chased us away. The police came in about 3 or 4 buses, chased us away, and the crew was working on the culvert until about 5 in the evening. The police were guarding this site until last night, and even today about 7 or 8 policemen have come here to check on the site every 5 minutes. By disregarding the boundaries set according to these deeds issued when the country was a British colony to the farmers of Madawalagama and raising the spillway of the Madawalagama reservoir, the Provincial Irrigation Department has been careful to avoid the flooding of this house and the surrounding grounds. Incidentally, the land on which this house sits, blocking the original spillway, is illegally held by the president of a farmers' organization. While the police may be ignorant of irrigation standards, if they had conducted an investigation into the first complaint made by the farmers, they would have uncovered that what was about to transpire was an illegal and arbitrary construction. While this spillway was allowed to be constructed by strength of arms, on the day that water gushes through here, completely submerging 1,500 acres of paddy fields, will the authorities be able to prevent it with strength of arms? Governor of the North Central Province, over to you.
And that's a wrap of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us with us. For the News First team, I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Do take care and good night.